Hey everyone, I am professional photographer Ian Plant and founder of PhotoMasters, and in this video I'm going to be talking about using artificial light for photography. That's flashes and LED panels. And I'm going to be joined by the gear expert at Hunts Photo and Video, Noah Buchanan. He's going to show us some really interesting artificial light products that will allow you to light up your subject. So if you want to learn more, then stay tuned. Noah Buchanan from Hunts Photo and Video. Welcome to the program. How you doing, Noah?
Doing good, Ian. It's been a while. Happy to be back on. It's good to see you again after some time away. Really excited to be here and talk about some different stuff today.
Fantastic. Well, today we are going to be talking about using artificial light for photography. And so depending on what kind of photography you're doing, artificial light may be something that's useful for you. It may not. So if you're doing a lot of landscape photography, artificial light probably isn't something that's going to be very useful unless maybe you're doing night photography and you want to do some light painting. If you're doing portraits or weddings or stuff like that, then artificial light is really important. As a wildlife photographer, I always travel with a flash and or an LED light. I want to have a portable light source so that I can add some fill light to my subjects and really bring my subjects to life. So Noah, as our gear expert at Hunts Photo and Video, can you tell us more about the different types of artificial light that are available to photographers?
For sure. Yeah, there's a lot of options out there for artificial lighting. I do want to start off by saying that many lighting companies are switching to LED lighting now. It's much more consistent. It's much better in terms of heat. They're not going to heat up a lot of the older incandescent bulbs and incandescent lights that we would have for hot lights. If any of you are familiar with shooting with hot lights in a studio, you know how hot those get. They're called hot lights for a reason. So a lot of things now are switching over to LED, not just continuous lighting, but also strobe lighting as well, which I'll talk a little bit about later on. But right now, LED lighting is super hot. There's a lot of different products out there on the market. I have a few here that we're going to talk about today and showcase and go over in a little bit more detail. But on top of that, there are tons and tons of artificial lighting options out there for the photographer or videographer that you are working with. So I'm really excited to talk about some of this today, show off some of the different lighting solutions that we have here at Hunts, some of my favorite choices and some stuff that I personally use in my own photography and videography, and share some of that with all of you.
Yeah, and I think maybe it's worth pausing for a moment and just talking about the relative advantages and disadvantages of LED lights versus flash. Now, flash has been around for a while, and the usefulness of flash is that it's very portable. Flash has a very long range, so you can basically add light to your subject from a very far distance, and it also lasts for a long time because the flash is not on continuously. It's just flashing a burst of light. And so with a set of batteries, you can probably get several hundred shots using your flash. The advantages of the LED lights is they provide continuous light and it's easily adjustable. You can very easily adjust the intensity and the color temperature of the light to match it perfectly to the scene or subject that you're photographing. The disadvantages of the LED lights are that they don't have the range of flash. You can get a very bright LED light, but the other disadvantage of the LED lights is power. Because it's a continuous light source, they use a lot more power. And so if you want to be able to throw light a long distance continuously, you need a power source. So if you're in a studio, you can definitely have the more powerful lights. But if you're in the field, chances are you're going to have a pretty small LED light with limited battery life. And so it's by definition not going to have the same range as flash. When you have that continuous light source on, you might only be illuminating subjects that are a few feet away, as opposed to with a flash unit where you can illuminate subjects that are maybe several hundred feet away.
Exactly. And that's really one of the biggest debates too, is the power that you're getting. I am seeing more and more people get away from the traditional flash strobe lighting and switching over to LED. LED is still not at the point now where I think it's overpowering strobe lighting, especially bigger strobes like Profoto or Ellen Chrome or things like that. But I think we're definitely going to be getting to that point over the next several years. I will say that, especially for stuff like wildlife, as you were mentioning, Ian, definitely having a flash, even adding on something like a flash extender to distance that flash even further, is going to be much better than a smaller LED cube or an LED panel or something along those lines. Now, I will say those products tend to be a lot more versatile, but if you are looking for something that's going to specifically throw that light a lot further and give you a better power output, a lot of times strobe lighting may be a better direction to go in. But as far as universally using them, I find that LEDs are really suitable for a lot of different types of photography and also videography as well. And that's another thing that you can't really do with strobes since they only flash. So if you're doing any video work at all, you're going to want some sort of continuous light source as well.
Yeah, so for example, when I took a trip to Madagascar, I photographed a variety of wildlife, and I used flash for most of the big wildlife, like lemurs and things like that, because they were typically farther away, and I really wasn't having that many close encounters. But some of the smaller critters, like chameleons and geckos and other things like that, I would use the portable LED light because they typically would only be a few feet away, and I would be able to cast enough light on them to illuminate my subject properly. And so that's really kind of the dividing line right now. If you know you're going to be close to your subject, then you can use the LED light. But if you're going to be more than 5 or 10 feet away, most of these LED lights are not putting out enough power to successfully illuminate the subject. So flash is the better way to go in those circumstances for the most part. So Noah, why don't you walk us through some of the various products that are available for providing artificial light during photography?
Yeah, for sure. I would be more than happy to. I got a couple of things here that I'm going to show off and talk about. Now, these are in no specific order, favorite to least favorite, nothing like that. These are just a sampling of products that I wanted to come on and show off today. And really excited to talk about some of these. So I'm going to start with the smallest and most portable of all the options that I have really ever seen, which is the Luma Cube. This is probably one of the more popular brands as well. Luma Cube has been around for quite a few years now, and this was their original product. This is actually the second version of it, the 2.0, but the original Luma Cube was what got them started, and since then they've expanded into a lot of other different types of lighting solutions as well. One more which I'll talk about in a little bit, but this is the original product from Luma Cube, and I have it opened here, and this is tiny. It's about a 1" by 1" cube. It is continuous, an LED light source. It is rechargeable via USB-C. So one of the coolest things about the Luma Cube is it's completely weatherproof and shockproof, so you can take this underwater. If this falls out of your bag, falls on the floor, it's not going to break on you, and that's one of the things that I like about it. For all of you adventure landscape photographers, when you're out in the backcountry, trekking through the woods, trekking through some of this rougher environment, you want to have gear that's going to be rugged and be able to keep up with that as well. And the Luma Cube definitely does that, and it's small enough where I can throw this in my pocket, or really any pocket in my bag, and have it with me and not even know it's there. But when I need it, I have that extra artificial light source. Even using this, if you're doing any night photography, to look into your bag or try to find stuff or find your way around, this can just be a good continuous light source in general, as well as for a lot of photo and video specific needs too.
Yeah, and it looks pretty small, so it probably doesn't give out that much light. But if you're doing something like night photography, then actually you don't need a really super powerful light source, because typically you're shooting at a higher ISO and with a wide open aperture. So even if you've got a really small light source that isn't casting a lot of illumination, the cumulative effect of the long exposure, the high ISO, the wide open aperture will pick up that faint light. So you don't need like a super powerful spotlight to do light painting when you're doing night photography. Something like that very small Luma Cube is all that you really need.
Exactly. And with those longer exposures, as you said, that little bit of light will eventually feed more into the image. So this is a really great solution for playing around with some light painting. I will say that this one is just daylight balanced. So there's no color temperature control or anything like that. But a few of the other options that I have here with me do have options for different RGB color as well. So we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But as a continuous daylight balanced light source, that is the smallest and most durable one that I have ever seen, and probably one of the most popular products from Luma Cube in general, and the product that got them all started.
And how much time can you have that on at full power?
For sure. For full power, runtime on that's going to run you about 2 hours. You can leave them plugged in. They are rechargeable via USB-C. So if you have a battery bank or something with you, you can have them plugged into a battery bank and you'll get longer runtime than just 2 hours. But at full power, you'll get about 2 hours of runtime on a full charge.
That's really good. Well, what else do you got for us?
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to stick with Luma Cube and show off one other Luma Cube product. They have quite a few, but this one is another small light source, but this is one of their panels. And I was just talking about RGB lighting. This is their Panel Go RGB. And what's really great about this one is, as well as being daylight balanced, it's also an RGB light as well. So you have all 365 colors in the spectrum that you can choose from inside this light. It also comes with a soft diffuser, a hot shoe adapter, and all the accessories you need to go along with it. I have it set up right here next to me, and this thing is really awesome. It's about the size of a cell phone. If I have my phone out right here, it's really not much bigger, or actually much smaller than my phone is. So again, this is something you can very easily slide into one of your pockets without the diffuser on. It's even thinner, and it is also rechargeable via USB-C like all the others are, which is really nice. We've really kind of gone to all USB-C recharging for all these LED lights now, which is great because everything is going to be universal. You don't have to worry about finding a micro USB or a mini USB or whatever it may be. Everything is really going towards USB-C, which I'm a big fan of. But as I was mentioning, this is RGB. I just popped this on and I have it left over from a shade of blue. So as you can see here, that's casting a nice blue color on me. But I can go in here and go ahead and change this color temperature all through the spectrum. And you'll see as this is changing here and cycling through the different colors, this will cycle through and you can stop it in any way through that spectrum. You have a LCD screen on the back of this so you can see your power output. You can see what your Kelvin is set at or what RGB you are set at as well. And you're also going to get a battery indicator, which tells you how much runtime you have left, depending what power output you're on and also depending what color you're on. Some will draw some more power than others. So that's a nice thing that I like that this has that the Cube doesn't, is an LCD readout screen, so you can know exactly how much time you have left and what all of your settings are set at. The Luma Cube is really just a few different power settings, and that's all you have as far as control. So you do get a lot more control with this panel. However, it is not waterproof or shockproof like the Cube is, but this is a more universal option, especially for people doing video work. Giving you the option of having RGB as well is a really nice advantage.
Yeah, I've got something similar. It's an alternative to the Luma Cube by IVC, and it's basically the same thing. I can change color temperature, change intensity. One thing I like about the IVC is that it's got a hot shoe mount that you can rotate. So you can attach this to your camera. So if you're doing close-up work with small wildlife, amphibians, that sort of thing, you can put this on your camera so you can do hands-free shooting, and then you can adjust the position it's in to best illuminate your subject. It even rotates. So these are really nice options. All right, what else do you got?
Awesome. Yeah, I'm going on to another smaller panel. This one is actually from Nanlight. Nanlight is another relatively newer lighting solution that has come out onto the market within the past couple of years. They're actually kind of known for an LED tube called their Pavo tube. That's probably one of their most popular products, but they make a lot of other smaller lighting solutions as well, but also bigger light panels and kind of everything in between. So Nanlight is doing a lot of great things right now in the continuous LED market, from smaller panels like this 5C that I have here that is really pocketable, a little bit thicker than the Luma Cube is, but also USB-C rechargeable. This one does also have a small LCD screen on the back, just like the other one does, and is also RGB as well. This one does have a little bit more runtime on it, does have a slightly larger battery, which I like. Another nice thing about this one is it is a little bit smaller than the actual Panel Go from Luma Cube. You can see them here side by side, that they are definitely a little bit different in size, in that the Nanlight is a little bit smaller, just a little bit thicker in size. But again, another great portable LED lighting solution. This one is a little bit cheaper as well, which I like, so it's a little bit more cost effective than the Luma Cube is. Luma Cube tends to be a little bit on the higher end of the price point because of their name. They've been around, I would say, probably one of the longest in the continuous LED lighting market. And a lot of other companies have come around since then to kind of compete with them. So the nice thing about that is there's a lot of great options to choose from out there on the market right now. Nanlight being one of them. The Lastolite 5C is one of their cooler, smaller, portable LED lights. Another great solution to take with you pretty much anywhere.
Well, that's fantastic. These are some really good options. And I really enjoyed using these LED panels when I was in Madagascar. It was really easy to use. I could either hold it myself, or if you're working with a partner or a guide, you can have someone else hold it for you. So I was with a photo buddy, and he would hold the LED light when I was taking pictures, and then we would switch positions, and it worked out really nice. And it was just very good for subjects that were relatively close. If we had a chameleon that was just a few feet away, the LED was the perfect light source. We could dial in the exact intensity that we wanted and also the exact color temperature, and we could see those changes in real time looking through our cameras, so we could get the image to look exactly the way we wanted. Flash, on the other hand, is a little bit more difficult to use, and it's a little less predictable. You can't really preview the results. You have to set your settings with the flash and then take a test shot. And flash is easily adjustable in terms of its intensity and its output, but you can't easily adjust the color temperature. You can use filters on your flash, but it's just not as easy to adjust as it is with these LED panels, where you just basically spin a dial and you change the color temperature of the light.
Exactly. And that's another thing too, especially now that the photo industry is really shifting into everything mirrorless. Flash lighting is a little bit harder to gauge your exposure with, especially if you're in a studio. Setting your exposure in your mirrorless camera to actually be correct for when your strobe goes off is going to be very hard for you to compose your image, because your camera is set up for a very bright exposure when that flash goes off. But if you're just looking through your camera as that strobe is not actually firing, it's going to appear very dark. And that's one thing that a lot of people are running into now with mirrorless cameras who are doing more portraiture or even more studio work, is that continuous lighting sometimes is a lot better with mirrorless, because you're seeing that lighting in real time. You're getting to see that exposure in your viewfinder. Unlike with a DSLR, you're just seeing whatever available light you have. So I have found that a lot of people going to mirrorless now are really more gravitating towards the LED continuous lighting solutions, because you don't get to actually see your exposure with the strobe before you take the image like you would with the continuous light source.
Yeah, and with Strobe Flash, the best thing you can do is to take a few test shots to make sure you've got all the variables worked out, your camera settings and your flash settings. And you want to basically have an appropriate mix depending on your subject. Usually when I'm photographing wildlife, I don't like having a strong flashed look, that obvious flash look. I'm usually just using the flash to add a little bit of fill light to maybe balance the exposure if my subject's in the shadows and there's brighter light around it. That's going to reveal more of the detail of the subject, also maybe bring out some of its color and its texture. But usually I'm shooting at a low power. I'll use flash compensation of -2 or -3, or I'll just shoot with my flash set manually and I'll figure out my appropriate power output. That is useful if my subject's not moving around a lot. If the subject's moving around and the lighting's changing, then using flash compensation is better. And a pretty simple setup for flash for wildlife is what I've got here. I've got my flash, and it's not actually on the camera hot shoe. Instead, I'm using a flash bracket. That allows me to rotate the flash if I change from vertical to horizontal position. That also gets the flash a little bit off from the center axis of the camera. So this helps avoid that red eye or green eye effect, that flash eye effect that you often get if you've got the flash right on the camera. And it also changes the angle a little bit so the light is a bit more flattering for your wildlife subject. So a simple flash bracket with the flash mounted on the bracket so that it's not directly on the camera, that allows you to rotate easily between horizontal and vertical position as you change it with your camera. This is all that you really need to get out in the field and start taking photos using flash. A lot of times when I'm showing my photos and I talk about using flash, people are asking me, well, do you have an assistant that's holding the flash away from the camera? In an ideal world, I would, But having an assistant with me for 2 weeks in Africa, for example, while I'm on safari, is probably a little bit out of my price range. So if you can't hire your own assistant, or you don't have like a dedicated photo buddy who just hangs out with you and does whatever you want, then a flash bracket is the next best thing. It's not ideal. It would be better to have someone who's a little bit farther away that can hold the flash at different angles. So you can try different angles with the light and maybe find the most flattering angle for your subject. But, unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world. So you have to compromise and make do. And a flash bracket is the best compromise that you can make. So do you have any flashes to show to us today, Noah?
I do, and it's actually a relatively new flash because it's an LED flash, and it's one that I've actually been excited to talk about for a little while now. It's from a relatively, again, another newer company that's been in the market now for less than 5 years or so, a company called Rotolight. And they came onto the market and really kind of partnered with Sony early on as kind of a mirrorless specific continuous light source, but also a strobe as well. So what is really awesome about this is it is both a continuous LED and also a strobe. So you can use this as a strobe, and it's going to give you a really strong power output for how small and compact it is. It's also RGB as well, and you can actually strobe the different RGB colors. And it is you have the option to hot swap batteries. So you have the Sony FP700 series batteries. These are kind of your typical camcorder batteries that also do power a lot of other LED panels. These are great. They run for a really long time, and you can get different sizes to give you even more power output. It does also have a direct power input, so you can plug these in and run them continuously as long as you want. The great thing about these is they are LED, so you're not actually going to heat them up or overheat them and run the risk of damaging your lights. So what is really cool about this light, on top of everything I already just mentioned, is it has a touchscreen panel on the back. So everything is controllable via this touchscreen panel that you can see right here. You also have 2 knobs to control your power output and also your color temperature and some different settings within the light itself. But this is comprised of many multiple LED lights that will shift color as you cycle through. What I really like is you have a ton of different gels to choose from, and they're going to give you the actual color, the specific color that color is. As you can see here, you have a selection of all of your primary colors, but then you can go in and actually fine tune those even more. You have options for source matching colors. So this is one of the most advanced lights that I have seen that is relatively affordable, in my opinion, for what it offers. There's really not anything else out on the market like this, and that is what is so cool about it. As you can see right here, I will do a test really quickly, and I am just flashing this test strobe with that green light that I had powered on. So I can flash any strobe that I want, any color that I want. This also has some really cool special effects modes. So if you want to have something such as a fire going on in the background, you can set a fire mode so it's going to look like you have a fire. There's a fake police siren, so if you want to have the red and blue flashing lights. There's a artificial TV light, so you can really have a lot of fun with this and play around with some of the special features that are already programmed into this. You can take this off camera. It does have an Elinchrom receiver in it, so you can get an Elinchrom trigger to fire this off camera. I have heard that they are coming out with an upgraded version of this next year that will have the option for, I believe, a Godox receiver as well. Godox is another one of those strobe companies that has really kind of taken the world by storm. So they're going to actually look at inputting a Godox receiver into this. So those of you who are using Godox will be able to incorporate this into your strobe system that you already have. But this is awesome. This is kind of an all-in-one lighting solution, from continuous video lighting to strobe lighting. It's portable, it's compact, rechargeable battery. Really anything that you would ever really want in an LED light is all packaged into this really awesome, small, compact system. It has a really nice diffuser that it comes with, a soft carrying case so you can bring it around with you. and it has been really fun to play around with. I've had this now for a couple of weeks, and I'm usually not one to play around a lot with artificial lighting. I do every now and then, but this light specifically has been one that's really excited me because there's really not anything else out there on the market quite like it.
Speaking of Godox, that's what I'm using for my flash. And I'm curious. So the flash unit I'm using is their highest powered model. And so the range I get with this is pretty significant. When you're using the flash option on the Rotolight, what sort of power output are you getting compared to one of these higher end flash models?
When you're comparing a continuous light source like this and the power output of something like this compared to your Godox flash, for instance, one thing I will say is there are not nearly as many modifiers out for a light like this Rotolight as of yet. What you do have that is nice when you're looking at a strobe like Godox or Nikon or Canon or any other strobe brand is you have a lot of different modifiers out there. One thing that you had on yours, Ian, was actually a MagMod piece, which is a universal adapter for strobe lights and speed lights like yours that allow you to attach on different modifiers. One of those modifiers is their Wildlife kit, which actually is going to extend the distance of that flash even further via a Fresnel lens. That's not something that you really have yet for this product from Rotolight. I would love to see MagMod or another company come out with different accessories and modifiers for them because I definitely see a place for them. But as of right now, I would say this is really more designed towards portraiture photographers and working within probably a 10 to 15 foot range. If you're working with wildlife that's at a further distance, you're still probably going to be better off with a traditional flash or a speed light with a modifier like that MagMod.
Yeah, I mean, I think I see the Rotolight as being more useful in a studio or a controlled outdoor setting, like a fashion shoot outdoors or something like that, where you can get relatively close. It's probably not as useful for wildlife or other nature photography because it's not as portable. I think that a flash and my LED panel are still lighter in weight than the Rotolight. It's pretty big. And I'm definitely going to get more output from my flash than from the Rotolight, even when the Rotolight's in its flash mode. So I still think that the traditional flash and a supplemental LED light are the way to go if you're doing wildlife photography. But I do see the Rotolight as trying to combine the best of these both options into one product. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they come out with in the future because I think that the capability of that is going to increase. It seems to me that the market's probably eventually going to figure out a way to move to LED light only, and the traditional strobe flash probably will fall by the wayside at some point. But as it stands right now, each of these different products has different uses, different strengths, and different weaknesses. And so I think that if you're interested in studio photography, portrait photography, fashion photography, weddings, a Rotolight might be a really good option. If you're interested in doing landscape photography and might only need a little bit of supplemental artificial light in specific circumstances, then an LED panel or a Luma Cube or something like that is the perfect way to go. If you're doing wildlife photography, definitely you're going to want to have a flash to give you more reach and more power when the situation demands.
No, and I completely agree with that. I think you really described it perfectly. There is not one lighting solution out there that I think is perfect for any style or every style of photographer. So there are still some key differences that you want to keep in mind when you're trying to determine what lighting solution is going to be best for you. Hopefully in the next couple of years now, we'll see something with this Rotolight company or another company coming out onto the market that's going to really have that perfect all-in-one solution. I think the Rotolight is definitely on the right track, and I think we're going to be seeing more products like that, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going to come out over the next couple of years.
All right, Noah. Well, this has been an illuminating conversation. Thank you very much for providing your gear expertise. And as always, Hunts has got some specials available for viewers of this video. So check out the description that goes with this video to find out what specials are available. And you can contact Noah directly if you want to order something or if you have any questions about this gear or any other photo gear that you're looking to acquire. Noah, thank you very much for being on the program. It's always a pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ian. And thanks to everybody for tuning in with us today. Can't wait to see you all on the next one. Have a great one. Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. We'll catch you next time. Thanks. Bye.